This is what we are. We are.
Thank you. Just bringing a lot of gifts for you guys. Thank you for the nice introduction. My name is Christiansen. I'm responsible for head of marketing for Momondo Global. And I'm going to tell you a little story about my company and about where we're going. But the company is 10 years old, and 3 years ago I started at the company, and we needed to figure out, okay, where are we going, what should we actually do, what is the main purpose for our company. And we created this film. I'm going to show you the film. It's been viral on YouTube, so maybe you've seen it, also on Facebook and so on. If you haven't seen it, you're going to see it now, and then I'm going to tell you the background afterwards.
I'm proud to be English. My family have served and we've defended this country and we've been to war for this country.
I'm really patriotic about Bangladesh.
Well, I am 100% Icelandic, yeah, definitely.
This is a Kurdish wedding with my mom in the traditional Kurdish clothes.
We're just proud black, so that's it.
Yeah, I think we are probably the best country in the world, if I'm honest.
Think about other countries and other nationalities in the world. Are there any that you don't feel you get on with well, or you won't like particularly?
Germany. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Germans.
You might think they're a little bit...
Particularly India and Pakistan, probably, because of the whole, the conflict.
Because I have this side of me that's like, that hates Turkish people. Not people, but the government.
But French?
No.
We're just the best, it's just fact.
I'm more important than you. I don't know you, but in my opinion, I am strong and I am more important than a lot of people.
How would you feel about taking a journey based on your DNA?
Yeah, I feel very intrigued.
What could you possibly tell me that I don't know?
So do you know how DNA works? So you get half from mum and half from dad, so 50% from each of them, and they get 50% from their parents, and back and back and back. And all those little bits of your ancestor, they filter down to make you, you. I need you to spit in this tube for me. You spit up to the little black line.
That's a lot of spit.
Right, the story of you is in that tube. What's it gonna tell me?
It's gonna be, oh yeah, you're French, and wait, your grandparents are French, and wait.
100% Bengali.
Solid Iraqi.
I'm Cuban.
You're gonna tell me that I'm English, like I've told you.
Jay, can you come down and join us?
I'm a little bit nervous, I have to say.
So you ready to find out your results? Will you read it out to us, please?
Wow, look at me.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. Shit, I didn't expect that.
All of them.
Whoa! No.
Caucasus, which was Turkish?
Yeah.
Eastern Europe, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece.
I'm 32% British.
What?
Great Britain, 30%. Can we... 5% German.
I'm Irish.
Yeah.
So I'm a Muslim Jew.
Great Britain, 11%. Are you sure these results are mine?
Eastern Europe?
Iceland has definitely moved closer to Europe now.
I'm gonna go a bit far right now, but this should be compulsory. There would be no such thing as extremism in the world if people knew their heritage like that. Who would be stupid enough to think of such thing as a pure race?
In a way, we're all kind of cousins, in a broad sense. In a much more direct sense, you have a cousin in this room. Turn around and guess who it is. Wash?
Yeah. What's that?
Why don't you come down here and meet your cousin?
God, this is the best.
Did you know that?
I didn't know I did. This is like, my heart's pounding right now, I swear to God. We met.
I'm Jay from everywhere, whatever it is. I'm a real man of the world.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
So would you like to travel to all of these places?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm crying every time I see it, even though it's a long time ago now. It's been a long journey also for Momondo. Momondo, if you don't know it, is a travel search engine. And what we do is that all the way from the beginning, 10 years ago, Momondo was actually founded on the belief that if we can build a search engine to make flight tickets cheap, then we can actually make people meet even more, because it's going to be cheaper to meet. So we can break down the borders between countries. Because in the core belief, we believe that borders between countries is something that we invented. It's mainly based on wars and so on, but it's not based on where people live and who people are. So what we want to do is actually to break down the barriers between people and make sure that they meet, and they meet each other with open mind. That's basically it. That's the background. Oh, sorry. So what we did 3 years ago was that we tried to figure out what is it that we do, how can we actually tell people that that is the core purpose of why Momondo exists. So we started a lot of long discussions. We talked with a lot of professors in different directions, figuring out a lot of creatives, figuring out how can we actually do this? How can we start a movement for a better world, for a more open-minded world? We looked into a lot of movements, and that was the very funny part. We looked at Christianity, for example. How does Christianity work as a movement? What kind of parameters do they have? What does the Hells Angels, what do they do? It's also a really powerful movement. So we looked at that and said, okay, what is it that a movement actually needs? So if we want something more than a campaign, but we want people to join in to fight for a better world, how do we do that? So what we did in the beginning was actually we made 5 pillars in our movement. There's going to be even more. This is just the beginning of the movement. It started last year. So we made a pillar about the value of traveling. It was very important in the beginning to figure out why should a travel site actually talk about openness in the world? What is our reason to speak? So we made a huge report called The Value of Traveling across 18 countries, asked people about in which direction do they think the world is going. 48% think, and that's a year ago, 48% thinks the world is going in the wrong direction. Only 10% thinks it goes in the right, and that's before Trump and Brexit and all that. So it's probably even worse now. And then we made a correlation. We also asked people about their relationship with their friends, their neighbors, their colleagues, and so on. And those, we also asked them about, what about people you meet for the first time? How do you do that? And we made the correlation between openness in meeting people for the first time and traveling. And that was sort of the crucial point for us, making sure that the more you travel, the more you go out, expose yourself to new people, the more you actually get open-minded, the more you open up for the world. So that was the core in the beginning. Then we made, it's almost the 10 Commandments. We made 5 ways, trying to figure out what is it actually, how can we help people when they're out in the world, or just meeting people in everyday life. We also talked about that it's a movement, so it's not our movement, it's everyone's movement that we want to build. The movement is called Let's Open Our World. And we started by talking with a lot of ambassadors, mainly travel bloggers, about where do they see the world, how do they actually travel, how do they meet new people. So finding out who's the first ambassadors that could join our movement. Then we also talked about that we wanted the lake talking about helping the next generation, so it's not just us internally saying, okay, now we want to do something and not doing anything. So we joined up with an organization called CISV, which takes 2 boys, 2 girls from all around the world, put them together in a summer camp, and they're there for a month. And when they've been together for a month and they go home to their own country again, then by experience they know that they will be more open-minded when they grow up, because now they have friends all over the world. So it's actually the same that we're doing. Now we're supporting them for the kids, but looking at it with travel is doing the same just for us, and it takes a bit longer time. And so we had the pillars in the beginning, and then we looked at what is the first activation, what is it that we should do in order to sort of put the focus on the problem. And that was when we made the DNA journey. The background for the DNA journey was, you should imagine you're sitting at a dinner party, and the girl next to you says, I'm working in marketing, and I say, I also work in marketing, and then suddenly you have something in common. And just based on that, you can just speak freely, because now you have something together. And it's actually the same. For us, it was very much based on the DNA, saying that everyone has the DNA in common. How can we use that? How can we use that as the first hook? As Jay in the film saying, I really hate Germans. And he figured out, okay, I'm 5% German. And suddenly he changes, and he needs to put a new perspective. He needs to unlabel his perception of Germans. So that was really the hook in how can we actually do that. What we did was, and it was really difficult because also DNA testing is something, okay, everyone knows this, DNA testing was the news. What we did was that we recruited 67 people. Among these was also Ollie's in it. Recruited 67 people from all over the world. We needed to make sure that we can show people from all over the world. And we filmed them for 10 minutes, asking them about their childhood and what do they actually know about where they're from, because it turns out that nobody actually knows where they're from. Maybe you know 100 years, 200 years back, but you don't know 2,000 years back, where's your family from? So we interviewed them, and then we DNA tested everyone to figure out what is it actually that they're going to figure out. And then we looked at the stories, and we could see, for example, we had a Russian lady, the girl that sings in Russian in the beginning. She said, I'm 100% Russian in the interview. And then we got the DNA testing, which she didn't see, that said she had Native American DNA. And I was okay, there's a story in this. How do we think she's going to react? We don't know, but let's test it, let's see. And it was the same with all of them. So we started by inviting 15 people to Copenhagen to film it, where they actually, the first day they talked about themselves, and then the second day they got their results to see, okay, how is it working, what is their reaction. When we invited them to Copenhagen, the DNA company, they called us and said, hey, one of the girls you invited, which was Elaha, the Kurdish girl, Elaha, she actually, her up there, they said, okay, Elaha, she actually has a cousin, but he's one of the guys that we recruited out of London. Should we also invite him to Copenhagen for the filming? It was just, yeah, of course, that's really, really cool, and they don't know. And that was the part of the film you saw in the end where they did not know. But what it turns out afterwards, after the filming, it turned out that she's from Kurdistan and he's also from Kurdistan. She flew out of Kurdistan to Denmark, and he flew out of Kurdistan to England. And now they got united. So right after the filming, she was calling her husband and said, I got a cousin, come and get me. And then the cousin came, her husband came, and then they were hugging and everything. So that was really, really cool. But a lot of stuff happened that we didn't know, because all of it was an experiment to see how will it actually work when we try to unlabel people. So we did the value of traveling report. We did it's always difficult to do stuff that is really in the core of the brand, and how do we do that as a company? What we did in Momondo was that we DNA tested everyone in Momondo. So what you see up here, the nice map up there, I'm not sure you can see the percentages, but that's my DNA. So I'm really, really dull. I'm 82% Scandinavian. You didn't see that. and I have 10% Western Europe. But what I notice about my DNA is that, for example, I'm 1% Iberian Peninsula. It's not that obvious. There's 1%. 1% Italy, Greece, 3% Jewish, European Jewish, and so on. And it's the little percentages, the little changes that I actually notice, even though I can say, but you're actually only 82% Scandinavian. But it's the little things that people notice, and we see that every time. Of course, we had all the ambassadors joining in, being DNA tested, talking about diversity, talking about themselves, talking about prejudice towards people. When we launched the film, it was 2nd of June last year, we had a lot of more people because suddenly they could see what the project was all about. So right now we have around 600 ambassadors all around the world joining in, which is really, really cool. When we seeded it, the campaign, we also launched it together with sort of as a side project. We said, okay, let's also do it a little competition where you can actually win a DNA journey, so you can actually win a journey to all the destinations that you're from. So across the globe, we ran DNA competitions where you could win a DNA kit, and if you were lucky, after you won the DNA kit, and you sent in your result, then you could also win a journey. And right now, there's a guy from Mexico, Manuel. He's traveling all around the world, which is quite cool. We get a lot of updates from him. On this campaign, we got a lot of publicity. This is just some of it. What we could see was that all the places where it really burns in the world, it became big. We didn't translate the video to Arabic in the beginning because we don't have an Arabic website. But it became huge in the Middle East, so suddenly it was, okay, we need to translate it. Well, how do we do it? It became big in China and so on. It became big in the US, where there was back then there was the Orlando shootings. Trump was talking about Mexico building walls and that. So it really, a lot of places in the world where there were problems, they took the video and shared it. We also got people like Brooke Hogan, which was my sort of favorite. Brooke Hogan liked it. We had Ashton Kutcher. It's been on Oprah in the US. It's been all over. It's been on TEDx and so on. Really, really huge. Right now the campaign has almost 400 million views on the main video, so it's really a global phenomenon right now. Where we are today is that you saw the 5 building blocks in the beginning, and what we're trying to do now is to say, okay, what's actually the next step? How do we build the movement so that we have a lot of stuff where you guys can help us co-create stuff, but also stuff where you can help us share stories, make sure that we all the time have focus on preconceived notions between people. What we've done after the campaign is that we built a global, or what we call a global campaign, so that we took the main campaign, which was made in English, and translated it into 22 languages, so that we got all the people involved that didn't speak English or didn't like to attend to a campaign that was in English. We localized it for Russia, for example, Italy. Russia, we did because Russia is so different from all the rest, so we said, okay, let's make it only for Russia. And we have other projects right now. For example, we have a project that we call Open World Projects, which is projects that we go out and look and say, okay, these guys are doing something really cool. We cannot save the world alone, but we have these guys out here, they're doing something good. Let's go and fund them. Let's do something where they can go out and save the world. So a lot of projects going on. Also, if you guys have ideas, come with it, because we need new ideas all the time. Also, it's a movement. It's not our movement. It's our movement to make a better world. So that's where we are. I have 1 minute left, and the last thing is actually the gift. I don't know how we're going to do this because you are a lot of people. I have 6 DNA kits. I don't have a DNA journey, but only 6 kits. So 6 of you can get a test of figuring out where you're actually from. So, okay, you got a challenge. I'm going to throw this to you. If you get it, you're not allowed to take it yourself. You need to give it to one of the others around you. So join the movement. Okay.
In randomness, we trust.